All right, welcome back to another episode of the Forfeit Fatherhood podcast. And today is all about fatherhood lessons that hit real life, not highlight reels. I'm talking to James Fouché, a dad on the other side of the globe, and we get into presence, breaking cycles, infertility, and the white noise season when you're doing a lot more than you can remember. If you've ever felt stretched thin but still trying to show up, this one is for you.
Don't move. Keep it locked. You already know. You're listening to the Forfeit Fatherhood podcast. And we're having conversations with dope dads covering the 4 pillars of fatherhood. We call it the Fit Fatherhood Formula: faith, family, finance, and fitness. That's right. These dads are setting the pace in business and fatherhood. This show isn't only about the outside success. We're getting down to who you are. Gentlemen, it's time to get fit. And now, let's get into the show.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Forfeit Fatherhood podcast, a podcast for fathers by fathers, where we talk about the 4 pillars of fatherhood, which are faith, family, finance, and fitness. And I'm excited to have this guest with me today because a couple of reasons. One, we have kind of a similar story, obviously different backgrounds and different situations, but kind of came to the same realization. And so it's nice to kind of hear someone else's perspective on a similar situation. My guest today is James Fouché. James, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Rod. How's yourself?
I'm good. I realize I said today and it's nighttime for you. So, so how has your day been?
Day has been brilliant. It's another blessed day. Everything was perfect. I guess in the fact that it wasn't always perfect, but I'm still here. I'm alive. My kids are alive, and I think that's the greatest success story so far for the day.
I agree. If we make it to the end of the day and everybody's still healthy, then I think we've done a decent job. There's always room for improvement, but I think that we can mark that off as a win.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I kind of alluded to the fact that you are not in the same time zone as me. James, where are you at? Where are you located?
I'm in South Africa, so I live in the Garden Route area of South Africa. It's very much the southern tip of Africa, and it's beautiful here. It's absolutely stunning. It's probably one of the most beautiful places I think that you can imagine. Yeah, and it's such a lovely place. Sunny, weather is perfect. Yeah, it's just stunning.
Awesome. And you know what is I wanted to point that out because as we talk about fatherhood, it doesn't have a time zone. It doesn't have a nationality. It doesn't come from any particular place. I think all fathers, to some degree, experience very, very similar situations and very similar feelings. And I just wanted to be clear that we are on opposite ends of the world, so to speak, but have similar situations and a similar feel and love for our family. So I just want to, it goes beyond color lines. It goes beyond tax brackets and the amount of money you make and the title that comes behind or before your name. Fatherhood takes precedence, and there's these through lines that no matter who you are, where you are, fatherhood is fatherhood.
Absolutely. I saw an interesting video.
Go ahead.
I saw an interesting video once that emphasized that very point that you were trying to make, where it's someone in America who's busy brushing his daughter's hair, and he uses a vacuum cleaner to suck the little girl's hair up, and then he very cleverly he had the elastic around the front of the vacuum cleaner hose pipe, and he just pops it over, and there, boom, the hair is perfectly done. And right after that, it's got a completely different cut of how someone is doing it in Japan, or I think it might have been Japan. Or I think it was more Chinese, maybe more inland, because it was at various time zones, and it just it echoed that same thing. It doesn't matter where you are, you're still a dad, and you're still doing something for your daughter. It doesn't matter where you are. It was quite unique to see that juxtaposed like that.
Yeah. And it's funny because I'm sure nobody taught them that, right? Like, they probably didn't see that somewhere and go, oh, this is the way to do it. It's just kind of an innate thing. And some things that we do are kind of just like, aha moments for
Absolutely.
us. but
Absolutely.
other people are experiencing them as well. So that's kind of the beauty of the podcast and of the platform is uniting fathers kind of worldwide. We're talking about the similarities in fatherhood, but let's kind of talk about your fatherhood a little bit more. Could you kind of give us a little background on who you are and kind of where you come from and you know your fatherhood story?
So my fatherhood comes, I think it comes from the me as a kid growing up in a house where my father left the house when I was quite young. We have since sort of reconciled, and you know, we're really working hard towards building that relationship again. But I mean, the reality was that he left the house when I was 5. There was, you know, irreconcilable differences between mother and father, and it was just not a very pleasant environment to grow up in. I think it was the consequence of, you know, that 70s, 80s time where dads were setting up franchises, you know. I think I saw that in a movie once where they spoke about that, and I found it so funny. Dads were just setting up franchises, and they were, you know, shifting off the responsibility of being a dad to either the grandmother or to the mom, and just, you know, they would just move on. So the example that I got as a kid growing up wasn't very good. Statistically, that put me in for a very high percentage chance that I would probably be in prison, do drugs, be sexually immoral. You know, the list goes on. The statistics are against you if you grow up in a fatherless house. I mean, we've sort of looked at those figures before, and the evidence are there. You know, whether you can deny it or not, it's there. So I didn't have the best example as a kid growing up, and I wanted to make sure that I don't do that, you know, for one day when I have a family. So when I met the right woman, the most beautiful woman, everything was perfect. It was destined to be the most amazing marriage, and we're going to go right into parenthood. It was going to be stunning, amazing, but plans don't always go, you know, as you want them to go. So after we got married, we really battled to get pregnant. It was not an easy journey. There was a 7-year period of us trying to have kids. And, you know, as I said, in any sport, as fun as it is to see people battle it out in the sport area, you always want to see your team score a goal or, you know, win at least. And we just
Yeah.
never won. You know, that goal post kept pushing further back, and it just never happened for us. And it was a 7-year journey. I mean, we went for tests. I was probed and prodded in very unpleasant ways, but you know, it was all to try and find out what, you know, what's going on in our lives. By this time, I think time was starting to turn against us, and then we found out sort of what the problem was. My wife had a stage 3, almost stage 4 endometriosis, which, I mean, stage 4 is, you know, it's very likely that you will not have children if it's a stage 4 endometriosis. So she was right there on the cusp of it. And the doctor said it's either now or not. So, you know, it was a very tense operation. And after that, very tense couple of months with the most organized lovemaking that you can imagine. I mean, like, you know, you had to like wait for when it's right. Are you ovulating? Okay, now it's business. I'm like, but I'm not really there yet. No, it's business now. So, but that was fun. And then we got, I think, 3 months after the operation, we had a child, and then the babies came very quick. And as much as we wanted kids, we never really prepared for when they arrived. So that was alarming.
I was gonna ask. I was after 7 years of trying and you know not necessarily getting the results you wanted. I would assume, but maybe not. I would assume that you had been preparing that one of those times, you know, was going to be the time and you'd have everything set up. But I guess even with the preparing, fatherhood is fatherhood, right? And no matter who you are, it comes when it comes. You're not like super prepared for it. You get prepared, right? You become the man that you need to be after you find out you're a father, regardless of you know it's coming or not. Was that the kind of the case for you?
I think it was more a case of we were so distracted by the other things, the trials of getting pregnant. We were so, it sort of took over, you know, like while we were trying, we would walk through the mall, and going into the mall, we'll be there for like 15 minutes, and then my wife just breaks down in tears and she says, I've walked past 15 people who are pregnant. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, I didn't even notice that. Like, why
Yeah.
didn't I even notice that? Should I have noticed it? We've got all these things that are happening, all these questions and trials that are coming our way that we sort of lost focus of what would come when we actually have kids. I won't say it's not that we didn't have the necessary faith in that we will have kids. It's that we were so stuck in that cloud, in that gray space of not being able to have kids, that we focused on the here and now, so that we just forgot about what's going to happen when we have kids. I mean, sure enough, we did plan. I mean, everybody has got a plan in mind for when you have kids. Oh, we do this. We're going to walk on the beach. But there's certain realities that just eluded us because we were stuck in this. We have to get pregnant first. We first have to get this hurdle out of the way. So yeah,
That makes sense. That makes sense. So then you get pregnant, and you said the kids come really quickly. I guess what changed for you?
quite a lot. So at the time, I just released my second book at that time, and the reviews were looking pretty good at the time. So that was me launching or starting my writing career. So second book out, TV interviews, possibility of it being turned into a TV series, all on the cards. We're all good to go. And then baby number one comes around. And then, pretty soon after that, baby two comes around because the doctor said, you're not 15 or 20 anymore. Your body starts now working towards a different environment, especially for my wife. So age is starting to work against you, where the womb is a very negotiable environment. It does get to a point where if you're nearing 40, there are more risks that start entering the game plan. So, and coincidentally, endometriosis was always on the cards. Endo might come back. It's not one of those guys that you take out of the game. He's benched. He always has the ability to come back. And the doctor said one of the only things that slows down the endometriosis process is having kids, actually having kids and going the full term of having kids. It's the one thing that counters that. So we were like, okay, well, if now is the time and time is working against us, and maybe we should just have number two. But then number three came very quickly after that as well. So the three kids came very quick. And the writing just stopped. I mean, that's when I just said, like, I mean, I love writing. It's my passion. But, if you have to weigh up the two, I'm not going to be an absent dad. I couldn't. Like, I grew up in that environment. I'm sure things would have been way different if my dad had still been in the house or stayed in the house. Maybe it turned out the way that it should have. Who knows how life is really going to be. I do know that it wanted me to be a prison dad. It made me want to be a prison dad. So that's what I did. Like this big finger squeezed into my life and pressed pause. And that was just how it was going to be. I paused everything. Every time I was like, I said to my wife, okay, next year I'm going to try to get back to writing. Okay. And then it wasn't going to happen. And then, okay, next year I'm going to get, so every time it just pushed it back. And I would make that same choice again. I would push it back every time. I see the fruits of it now.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you were on the well, obviously, I mean, this is where we align, right? Because I was similarly in my career on a trajectory to what they would call like the top of the food chain, right? Professional sports, and this is what every strength coach is trying to get to. And I got there at a pretty young age, and I was setting up to become the guy in that organization. And then the first kid is like, nah, you probably don't want to do that. And I 100% agree. Like, yeah, I definitely want to be present. And for me, it's interesting. Your father wasn't present. Right around 5, my mom and dad split up. So pretty much the same age as you. For a couple years, my dad, I don't know where he was. Well, I kind of knew where he was, but not really, right? And so I didn't really have a whole lot of contact with him. But then he came back into my life and was present, but they were split up, and so they had split custody. So I got to see him like every other a week in the summer, sometimes the holidays, stuff like that. I had a stepfather because my mom remarried, but he was a workaholic. Like he worked. I say all the time. I don't remember a time in my life where he didn't work overtime. Like he was always at work, and when he wasn't at work, he was asleep. And so I didn't really have a really solid relationship with him because he was physically present in my house. Like I could see him, but that was it, you know? And then my biological father was present when I was with him. But at that time, if you were separated, the internet wasn't like that, right? I couldn't just hop on and give him a phone call or you know what I mean? You had to be at the house to get a phone call. It wasn't like it is now. I couldn't FaceTime him or I couldn't, you know, just get on Instagram and see what he's up to today. So I essentially had no contact with him unless I was there with him. And so while I had fathers, two of them, which is more than most of us can say, I didn't have the presence that I wanted. So I knew when I became a father, I wanted to be fully present. And I did the same thing. Like I pressed pause on that and I just locked into being present with my family and finding another way to make things happen aside from going away from the house to you know pursue quote unquote my passions. So when you press pause on writing, obviously you've already written the book, right? So it's already out there, it's in the world. I'm sure people are reaching out to you, like you said, interviews and potential for it to be a show. How did you do that? Are you just turning people down left and right? Like, yeah, no, no, thank you.
It's sort of interesting in the writing community. You would get people read your books, and then they would ask you, you know, is there a follow up for this character? Is there a, you know, when's your next book coming? I mean, when there's a 10-year gap, you get you sort of get forgotten about very quickly. The book shelf space, you know, you've got a very short shelf life when you're a writer. Like you need to be present. You need to bring out a book at least every year. I think it's the same with recording artists. You know, it's not like in the old days where Queen could bring out an album every 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, Sade, she dropped an album like every 5, 7 years. Massively successful, right? I think the times have changed now where you've got to be more current. You've got to be there the whole time. And I think I got forgotten very quickly. You know, that's sort of that's okay. It's par for the course. I understand that. But I realize now that I'm sort of getting back to writing again. I mean, I finally released my next book. It was a 10-year gap in between. Now I released my third novel now, and now I have to literally start over again. So I've got to do the whole uphill battle of jump starting a writing career, which is not easy, but it's all good. I mean, it was a worthy decision to make. No one needs to know the benefits that it has for me and my family. They just need to know, okay, cool, he's back into the game again. Let's see what he comes up with. So book number 4 is already written. It's slated for this year, towards the end of this year. So I am back into the writing game again. It's just that 10-year period. It's private time. It happened. I deal with it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, congratulations on book number 4. But before we get into that, I kind of want to talk about that 10-year gap, right? Because you took that time away from writing. I guess you know I'm assuming previously or prior to becoming a father, if you were to introduce yourself, you would say James Fouché, the author, right? And then you put a pause on that part of your title, and you go James Fouché, the father. What does that 10 years look like?
Well, I always call myself a silly daddy. I think the one thing that I wanted to be is I wanted to be like really way crazy, like just silly for my kids. I wanted them to understand that there's nothing wrong with being silly, you know, not in a bad way, like in a really productive, good, creative way to foster that thing. Those 10 years, I wrote quite a lot of parenting articles for publications because, I mean, I am still a writer and I wanted to keep that side of me alive. And I rather channeled that towards writing certain articles. So I wrote for publications in South Africa and Australia and America. And it was more just giving subtle guidance for, you know, parents out there. And it always ended up coming around to fatherhood. So that 10 years, the things that I was talking about in the articles that I was writing really puts it puts a sort of crisp focus on what I was dealing with because it was bleeding into the articles because I was like relevant, right? And to be honest with you, there were many times that it was just this gray space. It was like white noise sometimes. I mean, when COVID came around, for instance, we went into a very long national lockdown. South Africa as a country had one of the longest lockdown. I don't know why, but we had one of the longest lockdown periods. And in that time, my wife was obligated to work because she was managing a guest lodge and she had to sort out a lot of things. So I was a single daddy with 3 kids on nappies. So when I say it was like white noise, I mean like my wife comes home at night and she says, "All right, so what did you do with the kids?" And I sit there thinking for like a minute and I would say, "I've got no idea. I don't know, but the kids are alive and they're asleep and they did eat. I've got no idea what happened." So I'll tell you what it was. It really was answering questions. That's it. I was just present. They were asking questions. I was fielding the questions, giving my best possible answers that I could. And if I couldn't give it, I would go try and find the best possible way to reason through it for them or to give them at least the answer. But that was the whole part of my life, and that was just answering questions and being available. That's it. Nothing more.
Yeah, that's one of the best pieces of fatherhood advice that my dad gave me early on, and I didn't get a whole lot early on, but one of the things he told me, because I've got sisters, I'm the only boy, and one of the things, and I've got 2 daughters, so his thing was, that at some point they're going to start coming to ask you questions, and he was like, don't just tell them to go ask your mom. He was like, if you can answer it, you answer it. If you don't know the answer, try to find the answer. If you can't find the answer and you do need to go to mom, you guys go together. He was like, because once you get to a point where it's always go ask your mom or I don't know, then they just stop asking you, right? You start cutting off your own connection to your kids and they stop seeing you as the hero or as, dad knows everything. And they just go, I'll cut out the middleman. I'll just go ask mom. And so just being present in the moment when they ask questions, whether I know it or not, that's also good, right? It's showing them some vulnerability. Dad doesn't know everything, but he'll show you how he finds the answer. And then they learn together and we learn together, which I thought is always really cool. Even to this day with teenage daughters, it's the same thing. There's some stuff I definitely don't know the answer to. But we're going to work together. Since you came to ask me, we're going to figure this out together. I'm not just going to push you off on mom because I know she probably knows the answer, but we're going to learn together. So next time I have the answer. And I think that's really important. I think the thing, even though sometimes it does definitely, I remember when my kids are younger, it feeling like at the end of the day, but I don't know what happened, but we all survived and everybody's healthy and happy. Let's just try this thing again tomorrow. It definitely can be like just white noise. Stuff is happening and you're just trying to not necessarily survive because you're really thriving in that situation. But at the end of the day, it's hard to be like, oh, we did this and we did that and we did this. And nah, we did whatever happened that day.
Absolutely. I love the way that you say that. It's so true. I think if it's like a sports play. If you've got the ball and you can make the play on your own, go for it. But I mean, essentially, you're a team. So if there's any doubt, bring in your wife as a team player, and you sit and work through it together. Like I mean, I say to my kids all the time, like when one day when you get into the world, you can go fight with people, and you'll see how far that gets you. I mean, I'm not going to stop you from fighting with the world. I'll share with you like the advice and I'll tell you not to do it. But if you don't want to listen to me, you can go into the world and fight and see where it gets you. But when you're with the family, you don't fight because we're all here. We all got your back. We're all here for you already. And we want to share advice and tips and we want to help you all, get further. So we do tackle all those things as a team. There are times when something does come up where I know like okay, this is not my ball game. Like, I mean, especially with daughters, you get to that space where you go like, all right, this is definitely a mommy question right here. I'm gonna let you talk to mommy, but then we go sit down together, we start talking, we're like, okay, cool. So this is a scenario, and this is where I'm gonna pass the ball to mommy because mommy knows how to play this one. I'm gonna just move out and let her have this. Okay, cool. But I love you, and I'm on my way. Okay, and then so that's just how it works. At least the one knows where the other one left off. There's nothing that's happening without us working as a team. And I think that's the whole thing about being a present dad. If you want to be present, then be present. You know, that's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think the parenting as a team sport is a great way to look at it. because I think the whole family as a team sport might even be a better way to look at it, is because while mom and dad are captains on the team, or maybe at one point one is a coach and one is the team captain, and maybe we switch roles, you guys, kids, you guys are also role players. Like, you guys also have responsibilities on this team. And our overall goal is that each one of us is as good as we could possibly be, but ultimately the team is as good as it can possibly be. And so we're all kind of working together. So I like, whenever I'm talking to guys, I always like to use sports analogies. For whatever reason, it hits home a little bit better. So yeah, the family as a team, or parenting as teamwork, I think is a great way to look at it. And it doesn't have to always be the star player that gets the job done, right? And on any good team, there's numerous star players. At any moment, one of us could be the star player. Like right now, I'm not the star player. This is mommy's the star player in this line of questioning. So let's let her be the star, and I'm gonna defer to her to go win the game for us. You know.
Me going to bed. There we go. I love it.
All right. So you mentioned a second ago being a silly daddy. What does that look like in your house now, day to day?
Man, whenever there's an opportunity for silly, we embrace it. Like, I mean, tonight I had my son playing drums in his underwear, and like the whole family was sitting there looking at her like, dude, you're off your rocks crazy. But we love it. Keep going, you know. So I think how does that look? Whenever there's a scenario, there are obviously times when you're serious,
Hmm.
but then there are times that we just stop and say, hey man, just it's okay. You can just smile about this. It's okay. Let's have some fun. Um, I mean, I think there's no one incident that can possibly best explain it. I use every possible opportunity, and my wife as well. I know we went to this. Now, I mean, we had kids, obviously being a little bit older, because of the 7 years of trying. So when we go to parties, we always end up being the older mom and dad. So that means that my dad bod is just a little bit more dad bod. We need wellness coaches like yourself to help us get where we need to get, because we neglect those things. And every year there's a little extra layer that gets added, and we're trying very hard to fight it off. But the reality is that then we get there, and then all the other moms are like they've got 10 years on us, okay? Because I mean, we waited, we got married very late, and then we had a 7-year delay. All the other moms and dads have got a good 10, 12, 13, 14 years on us, you know? And then we get
Hmm.
there, and then they've got a like a water slide or something, like one of these blow up water slides. And then I'm standing there still talking to them, and next moment my wife comes running past in a swimming costume, and she like layers into this thing, and she's sliding down in it, a splash, here she goes. And all the other moms are looking going like, oh, whoa, the moms don't do this with the kids. So then I go out and I get my swimming costume and I join her. That's just who we are. That's how we do it. There's no limits. There's no bounds. I married a woman that has got this amazing ability to just, I think somehow put other mommies to shame, because we just take fun first and just being engaging with the kids first,
Hmm.
and everything else, all the seriousness, it comes when it comes. We deal with it when it comes.
I love that, man. I bet your kids love that too, right? Like they know that they can have fun with mom and dad, and mom. Like I can imagine at that particular party, right? Like that being like the coolest thing in the world for a little kid is like, oh, did you see my mom? Just, did you see my dad? Like, and while everyone else is standing around kind of looking at you guys like, oh, that's not what we do here. The kids are like, yeah, that's really awesome.
That happens all the time. It happens all the time. Like, there was a time that we would do driving kids around. We would pick them up, and then they would drive with us, because there needs to be a parent present.
Hmm.
As a writer, I've got quite a flexible schedule, so I get to drive kids around sometimes. And then they'll get in the car, and then I just like there's a great hip hop tune that comes in from back in my day, and I like pump it loud, and I go and I just like enjoy the music. And I can see all the other kids in the back are like, oh no, when we drive with mom and dad, like in our car, we must all be quiet and sit in the back and behave. I'm like, no, like open up the windows and have some fun, enjoy it. Not to the point of being reckless, but just, they're just kids. They just want to have fun. And then, so then at the point of that happening, my son would be like, Dad, come on, man, you're embarrassing me. Lo and behold, somewhere along the line, when I dropped him off, they go like, oh man, your dad's pretty cool. They come back and they go like, "Oh, with the music, you can do that again. It's okay." And I know something must have happened. So,
Uh-huh.
take it as it comes.
Yeah, yeah, you take your wins where you can. And, again, I think sometimes we do things like that, and our kids are quote unquote embarrassed, but they're only embarrassed because they're not sure how everyone else is going to receive it. Like inside, they love it, right? But they don't want it to be like somebody thinks something's weird with our family, or somebody thinks my dad is crazy. But then once the other kids are like, "Yo, hey, I kind of like this. This is cool. Your dad's cool." And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, my dad's cool. You're right. My dad is cool." Next time, it's everyone in the car is singing as loud as they can, or at least trying to keep up.
There's nothing wrong with crazy. Crazy is good sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So you took your 10-year pause, you leaned into your family, you were present the way you want to be present, and then you decided that, maybe now is the time to get back into writing. What was that? What kind of sparked you getting back into writing an action, other than, you were writing kind of along the way, but in a different way? What made you want to get back into writing books?
So if you look at Shakespeare, for instance, he was on the up with his career. He was like really starting to make it big. And this was at a time where in English history they would really be keeping track of who does what and when and how, and especially from an arts perspective. And he was doing amazing, and he was the next big playwright. And then he met Anne Hathaway, and they obviously went to the farm outside, the outskirts of England, and they also had three kids in quick succession. And then for 7 years, exactly 7 years, he just disappeared. They actually call it Shakespeare's missing years. A lot of speculation about what really happened, but the truth is there is no real evidence of what happened. The man was just gone. He was just hitting it. He was just tasting fame, and then bam, he's gone. And no one knows why. I know why. So I think there's something very much prolific about that 7 years. I think for the first 7 years, it was chaos and mayhem in a good way. I mean, a very blessed, very good chaos. And I think after the 7 years into us having kids, took us 7 years to get kids, then we have kids, and then it was the 7 years of getting used to kids. But then after that 7 years, I started saying to my wife, like I'm feeling a niggle. Something is like I'm really being niggled. Yeah. Then I did two things. Firstly, I did my master's degree, my creative writing degree. So that was for about 2 years solid. That happened at the same time that the national lockdowns, same time as COVID. So I did that degree around about the same time. Then also at the same time, I created a TV series. So I came up with this character, like a African Jack Reacher, if you will. And I put this character down and I started writing a guy that's just a normal, good, decent guy, someone who's got a more grounding, code that he works on. And then somewhere in all of that, the writing bug really was starting to bite hard. And I said to myself, like, now. And I kept pushing back. I kept pushing back because life was still happening. And I lost my mom and my brother also in 1 year. So it was an emotional roller coaster at the end of that 7 years. Everything was happening all at once. We had a massive fire that came through and very nearly took our business away as well. So at the end of this, like that 7 years, 8, 9, then it got to a point where I said to my wife, while I was doing my master's degree, I said to her, listen, I've got the story in me that's really pumping to get out. Like this guy is really taking the reins. He wants to get out. And that was the third book that was calling me. The lead character is a guy called Gray, and he just started tugging at my soul. And then when I finished the degree, was done, then this character just poured out during the process of this degree. And at the end of that, I said, well, this is it. I need to do this now. The kids are now done in regards to, foundation building. I've done what I can. I was there. I was there the whole time. I am still here. But now it gets to a point where the percentages shift. I saw this very interesting conversation once of a very influential business lady from America saying, everybody says they're going to give their kids 100%. It's humanly impossible to give your kids 100%. You simply can't. You've got to give your job at least like, whatever percent, 50% or whatever. You've got to give your wife, 10%. Extended family, 10%. Your kids, they'll be lucky if they get 20% of you. So that really shook me because I was trying to understand where the percentages align. So I had given a lot of the percentage to my kids for that first 7 years. And then I just sort of slightly went down on that. And when it felt right, I said to my wife, okay, now they are now their own human beings. They can make certain decisions themselves. It's time for me to just step back a little bit and focus on my writing again. And that's how I got into the writing again. Yes.
Okay. All right. I think that was really insightful in terms of the percentages, like because I know when we say be present, right? The initial thought is I need to be 100% present, right? And that may be the case at certain times, right? But it as you just mentioned, and as whoever it was, that you saw, that's not really possible. Even when you feel like you're 100% present, you're not really 100% present. There's got to be some other parts of you and some other time that you spend in other places. If you're 100% present with your kids, your marriage is going to suffer. Your career is going to suffer. So while you maybe are 100% invested in the time that you spend with your kids, but that you can't devote 100% to any particular thing, and understanding that, there is kind of a sliding scale as life goes on, that kind of naturally happens. I've noticed that now that my daughters are older, they have stuff. They act and they got, softball practices and they want to hang out with their friends, or they want like just time to themselves. And I can't get all the time that I used to have, even if I wanted to. So then I naturally, we're kind of shifting together, right? As they're gaining more of their independence, I'm letting them have more of their independence, and in return, I'm getting more time to do the things that, outside of them, that I want to do or maybe even need to do. And I think that's important to note, is as much as we tell fathers, especially new fathers, that they need to be present, just understand that there's seasons to this, right? There's a time frame where you are and you need to be, like, in that first 5 to 7 years, super present, so you create the relationships that last beyond that. But it doesn't have to be that way forever. And you are going to have time to pursue your own personal passions and to lean into the things that you want to do, because as your kids get older, they need you less. And they, unfortunately, as hard as it may be here, want you less. But when they want you, you got to be there and show up. And I think that's really important that you pointed that out. So when you're like deep into a book and you're writing, are you creating like boundaries with the writing and with your kids that allow you to keep present with your family the way you want to be, like now?
That's a very difficult question. I think especially for writers, it varies a little bit. And I think I have thankfully I have come up with a way that really works for me, that I don't have to completely shut the kids out. So, and that's tricky because I mean, especially when you're writing a specific character or something like that, you might be a very certain way. Like, I mean, if I was to write a bad guy, if I was to write the antagonist in a specific way, while I'm writing that character, I need to condition myself that he's going to be doing things that might not always be good. And while I'm writing in that, it might it might pull out a reaction in me that might be negative, or a worldview that might be negative. So if my kid comes to ask me advice while I'm stuck in this character, will that affect the worldview? Well, I think in some people it might. I've always been someone that's pretty good at compartmentalizing. So whatever character I'm writing, I can very easily box them up and keep them in the back. Like as I'm sitting right here, I've got like 10 or 15 characters there hanging around my head, and I've got to be able to compartmentalize. I always wanted an environment, and I think also as a remote working writer for about 20, 25 years, I've always been involved with brands, writing for them, doing copywriting, content marketing, and things like that, as a freelance capacity. I've always wanted an environment where it's work-life integration and not work-life balance. So I understand work-life balance. I know what people are talking about when they say that, and I appreciate that. But all day long, he doesn't want to think about working right now. He comes in, work is over there. I get it. We're going to just click over to family mode, and that's fine. However, Your kid needs to see how you're dealing with the rejections at work, with the successes at work. What happened there, man? I mean, are you going to talk about that? Are you going to tell your kid that you had a bit of a disagreement with a coworker? Are you going to tell your kids that, yes, you got an award because you did something right? What did you do? How did that operate? How did you make the success? So I always wanted the kids to be involved in that. Whatever I'm doing, writing, whether it's for business, corporate writing, or whether it is a novel, what I'm writing, I wanted to be there. I wanted the kids to experience what I'm experiencing because that is still parenting right there.
Hmm.
They're still learning about how to deal with the world. Like I just had a massive maybe setback, maybe a publishing deal that fell through. I mean, I had all my books were set to be turned into films, had the TV series was going to be picked up, not going to be picked up, not going to be picked up. Man, the production world is it's like a hornet's nest. Like the rejection there, you should almost be like having a wall around your soul because you're going to get hurt. And I wanted the kids to experience that with me. Like I just got this call now, and it's a like they're going to pass on it now because of this that happened and this that happens. You know, it was on the cusp of being a deal. I need to deal with that loss. So there's my kids. Daddy, what does this mean? This is what it means. Oh, okay. So what do you do now? Well, now, so they're learning. Now I've got to do this and I've got to get back up. I've got to now prepare a pitch and pitch it to someone else. Oh, all right. Okay, cool. That's interesting. Do you do this a lot? These are all learning periods. I mean, so there's no real boundaries for me. There are some times where I'll say to my wife, "Look, I need to go away just to finish it. Like this section must be finished. There's something heavy that needs to come out, and it needs to not be hindered." But for the most of it, I want to be able to work in an environment where they can share in my successes and my losses and see how I react to that.
I really, really like that. I'm gonna go back a little bit, and it's something I had never thought about as a writer or someone who writes. Is that when you're creating the characters, you have to some degree, become the character, right? In order to write a really good character, you have to kind of have an understanding of how that character thinks, what that character would be saying or doing or acting. And I can imagine that you can kind of get sometimes lost in being that character. So I'm glad you pointed that out. The other thing that you said there that I think we all experience to some degree is yes, we talk about work-life balance and we want there to be a switch where we can just go from work to dad mode, right? But there is no real switch there, right? It's not like a up or down, off, on, off switch. It's more like a dimmer, right? Like there's some lingering effects of work that come home with you, regardless of how well you work your mental commute or you have your process, you're in the car and you breathe or whatever you do, right? But there is still some crossover. And I think what you're doing is really, really important because it's something that I try to live by is if you only show your kids how you fix a problem, they'll see the progress, but they never learn the process. Right. And so they only know that things got fixed. They don't know how they got fixed. And so when they
Mm,
run into similar problems, they don't know how to handle it. And so you sharing like, hey, this didn't go the way that I wanted to. And then them asking, okay, well, what do you do now? And then you kind of go through the process with them. Now, when they grow up and they run into obstacles or they run into rejections or things like that, they're like, hey, I learned how to do this with my dad. Like he kind of walked me through it and it won't be their first time. Right now, it'll probably be the first time it happens directly to them and they have to be the one to handle it and work through the process. But at least they have the experience. Not only that, but when they do run into that, they have the experience of talking to you about yours. And so now it's like, okay, I got this thing going on. Hey, dad, this is X, Y, and Z happened to me. What do you think I should do? Now they're calling you for support or for help. And that keeps you involved, even though they may be older or in a situation where, they're trying to do things on their own. Dad still gets to be involved because you've shown them that this is a human process. It's not just a dad fixes things. Dad has problems too. He's human. He works through it, and this is how he works through it, which I think is probably one of the most important things you could teach your kids is not just showing them the highlight reel of life, right? But also giving them the in between and not always the lows either, but the in between, the process of how we kind of ride that roller coaster and get back on top when we want to get back on top. So that's awesome, man. That's really, really awesome.
absolutely. You earlier said something that really is going to stick with me. I really enjoyed that. That was that there's a sliding scale. So I think that's absolutely it. You know, you don't just step out of the one to the other. There's a sliding scale, like you're sliding over from the one to the other, and it's a process. Like,
Hmm.
you know, there's no flick the switch. It doesn't work. And what you said now about sharing in the successes. So there's something about that where if that is the case, you will very quickly get to the environment where they realize when someone is getting good at something or someone needs help, and then you will see immediately that team effort because you know sharing our successes and our losses, and we experience this whole journey together. So, like for instance, my daughter had a gymnastics event, and she had to get there, and I was like, you know, honey, we don't have money for this because this is quite far away. We need to
Hmm.
get there. I've got a very thirsty Subaru, so if we want to get there, we know we're gonna have to get some petrol money to get there. So, you know, the family put together the one orchestrated a garage sale. The other one, my wife created a chart for her to do a little raffle. She went and did a raffle. I hosted a book thing. So where we all sort of jumped in and we all shared in our successes. And then the youngest one couldn't really do anything. She came to me and she said that they've got a little chart here where there's things that they do with like almost like a chore list, but not just chores, like very exceptional things. And she's like, Daddy, I don't want to do anything at the moment because I want to use the money that you would give us for doing these things to rather give that money to her to go. And I thought that was
Yeah.
so sweet. Like she knows she maybe can't get involved with some of the bigger level things, but she understands that she has to bring her part somehow. That was just so sweet. And that's because we've got this whole this open arrangement where, you know, we're going to share and we're going to get involved and we're going to help each other up. There was a soccer player that I can't remember the story, but some other famous soccer player coach saw that there was real potential. They said, look, you know, there's some real potential here. I can't remember his name, but then the whole family started contributing towards his soccer career. The whole family, like they started giving up their personal time. They started sacrificing little things here, not a new car. Everybody chipped in, uncles, aunts, everybody just sort of, they sacrificed and they did things to put back into his life. He became one of the celebrity soccer players, bought them a house, bought his uncle a house, bought them cars. Like, you know, it's just, that is so lovely to see, man. There's no, you know, there's no restraint on the love there. There's no
Yeah.
questions asked. There's just pure love, how that was done. No expectation. Just that real love and sacrifice. I enjoy that. I enjoy stories like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's also it's awesome to see when everyone's on the same page, right? As a family, when everybody's working together towards a common goal. It's amazing how that rising tide raise all ships. Like everyone just becomes better. Do you think that being a father, or maybe not? Do you think how has being a father kind of changed the way you write? Because I'm assuming prior to becoming a father, well, again assuming maybe a different writer then than you are now, or maybe there's a different perspective that you take when you're creating a character.
That's a good question. That's a very, very good question. Um, I think it was Hemingway. I'm not sure if it was Hemingway, but some other famous writers said that if you want to be a better writer, have kids. And to a certain degree, I can possibly understand why, but there's always a learning curve, right? Even if you have kids or no kids, you're going to learn.
Hmm.
I might have no kids. I might have no wife. I might, what's his one Bluey episode where he says, I have no children. My days are happy and free and I don't have any obligations or something like that. So I do understand that. But at the same time, I might have no obligation and nothing. I still walk out the front door and I'm about to learn stuff. You know, I get hit by a bus, or someone keels over and starts choking in front of me, or something happens at work. You know, every day is a learning curve, so you're still going to grow regardless. That aside, I don't think that parenting should influence you that much as a writer. Otherwise, that's like saying, okay, so I started out as a crime writer and I'm going to be writing the soppy romance books or something like that. It's not really the case. I think I distinctly remember once a lady came to me when she read my second novel. She came to me, she said to me, it was now recent. So obviously it was in the time that I was having babies and really stuck into my fatherhood responsibilities. And she came to me and she said, wow, I can see that you're a very busy dad and you've got, you're very busy with your kids. And I said, why? She said, well, because I can see the character that you wrote in the second book, King of Sorrow, is a character that's 5 years old. She said, I can see this character that you wrote. You have to be a very active dad to write a character like that. And then I said to her, that was written 5 years before I had kids. So, did being a dad did it change or influence my writing? I think life just did that naturally.
Mhm.
Was fatherhood a part of that? Yes. Would I have been a different writer if I didn't have kids? Yes. But it would still have been actively growing every single day of my life. It's an ongoing process, life, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that okay. All right. I don't know. I guess I assume that, you'd have more of a I don't know, parental lens on things or whatever. But I guess if you wrote a story about a 5-year-old 5 years before you had kids, and it was in depth enough that somebody thought you were writing from the lens of a father, then you already had this thing locked down. So your writing is obviously very thorough and well researched, and you're writing from a real understanding of each character. So I guess not, but I think that's also important to note, because I think a lot of us, when we put down or pause our careers to be present, we think we're going to lose something. We feel like we're giving up something to get something, or there's this trade off
Mm.
for who we are and who we become. I think you're no matter what happens, you're on the journey of becoming. Right? Like you're always becoming. And this is just again, a season or a chapter in that becoming. You're still on path to become whoever you thought you were going to be. This is just a different part of that journey that gives you maybe not career perspective, but life perspective, right? And you maybe live differently, but you still can do the career or the thing that you do the way that you've always done it. It doesn't mean that, because you're giving more of yourself to your family, that you're losing this other part of you. You still have it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think in that essence, I can possibly give a clearer answer and say, to a certain degree, where where you would definitely be influenced by fatherhood, is that you will certainly have more drive. That is for sure. I mean, if you think about a sports player, is it is being a dad going to influence the way that he plays sport? Probably not the way that he bats or kicks or whatever, but he will have more drive, that's for sure.
Hmm.
It's not going to change the way that he plays the game, but it is going to give him a better drive or maybe even a better sense of team spirit. You might have someone who's very egotistical and a sort of young blood situation, and then fatherhood will quickly sort that out. You realize it's not about you, man.
Hmm.
It's about the responsibilities of having kids, or it should have that consequence at least. And I think in that regard, that could possibly give you a new drive in your, profession. And I think in that sense, as a writer, yes, for me, I mean, I've got a way different drive now. My things are now aligned. Like I know what my responsibilities are.
I love this conversation because, like I said at the beginning, I had a similar situation where I pushed pause, and it's good to hear that from someone else, and to also hear that you press pause and you still, even now, feel like you would go back if you could do it all over again. You'd hit pause again, and be present the way that you want to be present. And I think that's important for everyone to hear, because again, it doesn't stop you from being you. You can be you. You just have a different drive, right? It may be a different motivation. It might even elevate you being you, right? Like you can do you in a different way with more energy and more motivation or inspiration to do you the way that you want to. I got something that I'm trying. I've kind of played with this a little bit over the last couple of episodes and trying to figure out if I want to keep it. And these are kind of like rapid fire questions that I kind of, jotted down some notes, and I want to kind of see if these work. And I don't know if I like it, but we're gonna try it and see if you down for some rapid fire.
Boy, all right,
they're
hit
not.
me.
They're not bad. They're not bad. All right. All right. So what is one rule in your house that you have that you don't apologize for? It's the rule, and it is what it is, no matter what.
Besides not playing on the steps, we've got we say thanks as a family for our meals, and we try to eat together at least once. But at least now in the age the group that they're on now, we mostly eat together. But definitely that's our time as a family around the table.
Yeah, I got the same one. Our rules that are hard, fast rules are all around dinner time or when we get to be together. So that I like that. What is one habit, good or I guess it would be a bad habit. What is one habit that you're maybe trying to break as a dad?
Mm.
Or on the flip side, one habit that you have that you want to make sure you keep as a dad.
I think a habit that I would like to work on more is being more active with my kids, like active. You can be present with your kids playing chess. You can be present with your kids reading a book. So like, I mean, books are currency in our house. Like if you want to make money, you're gonna read some books. That's it. That's what I'm paying you for. If you want money, that's how you get money. Take up a book, read it, tell me about it, then we can talk money. And that's fine. However, I do wish I would get more time to be more active with them. I do try to play sports with them whenever I can, but I always feel like it's not enough. And that's where that whole percentage thing comes in. So I think maybe I need to reprioritize and pass the ball to my wife a little bit with some of the things like reading or whatever it might be. But we need to try and work out a system where I can do a little bit more physical things with them because I mean they are becoming more physical now. Even if it is hiking in the mountains, something like that. That's a habit I really want to just focus on for the next year or two.
All right. What is your go-to way to reset or to get like me time when things kind of get hectic or overstimulated?
It would be like I'm a bit of a coffee addict. Well, not a coffee addict, a coffee snob. It's a big difference. So I won't say that I won't say that an addict drinks a lot of it to get a certain thing out of it.
Yeah.
I am a coffee snob, so I hunt for the very good, decent cup of coffee that will just take the edge off for me a little bit, and then that's my me time. I'll probably be reading while I'm doing that me time, or if it's not that, it would be going to the gym for a workout.
Okay. I like that. I would say both of those are good for me. A good cup of coffee. Not like a commercial like like store coffee, but like a good brew of coffee and just some time to relax is awesome. What is one phrase that your kids hear from you the most?
Oh my goodness. Oh, I might be missing the mark on that one completely. I think as many times it is just do it. It's either that or it would be, I don't know, it would be anything that is silly given the moment.
Okay.
So phrases from me would be borderline silliness, like 24/7, I guess. That's very difficult because I know that what I'm gonna say, my kids will listen to it afterwards and go like, "But that's not true. You say this," and I'll go like, "Crap, I say that a lot actually. I'm sorry."
Yeah, 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 yeah. It was funny as I don't know what my daughters would say is the thing that I say the most, and I feel like it would be something positive, like you said, like just do it or whatever, like motivational, like something like that. But I don't know. I have to ask them when I talk to them later after school. What is something that like if you were to pretend to be me, how would you do it? What does that look like? And I think that would be fun. I think that's a fun thing to try. I'm gonna definitely try that today. See what they come up with.
My kids imitate me all the time. I can't now really remember how they imitate me or what they say, but I will certainly remember that next time that they imitate me, that I'll record it and go like, okay, so this is what I say more, so that's
Yeah.
that's good. I'll remember that.
Okay, last rapid fire one. What is maybe one fatherhood win you want more dads to chase?
One win. Oh man, don't give up, man. Like, I mean, uh, giving up. Seeing dads give up is it hurts my soul. I honestly can't deal with that. And I know it gets tough, like out there. I know. I mean, as a country, we are dealing with the highest unemployment rate in the world. So, that is shocking. That's statistically accurate and it's very, very, very daunting. The reality is on every corner that it's right here in your face. You can see it. And that's just one aspect, but there's so many other places where I just see dads just give up. They just concede. I think I mentioned this at some point. There's this movie that I watched on TV called She Rides Shotgun. So it's a story about a a dad that gets out of prison, and he's got this new chance to fix things with his daughter. Obviously, there's a little crime story that's roped into this narrative, but he's got this chance to just not give up, and not just to take defeat, but to sort of fight for his daughter and her perception of the world, her little space. He's just equipping her in the little bit of time that he has. He's equipping her to just make her own space in the world. And I want to encourage dads to do that. Like, just don't give up. Just keep fighting for your kids to have their own little space in the world. If life dealt cruelly with you and things didn't work out the way that you wanted it, it's okay. It happens. But you are vital in the way that things play out for them. You can equip them. You can help them to just fight for their own spot. So I think that is definitely the one thing that I just don't want dads to give up.
I love that. I love that. That encouragement is necessary because it is tough, and there are a lot of obstacles that we face as the leader or head of household or just as the man in world. And so that those words of encouragement are super important. Last thing before I let you go, uh, or maybe two things. Second to last thing here. If your kids, let's say later on down the line, your kids find this episode of the podcast and they're listening, they make it all the way to this point. What is it that you want them to hear?
You are beautiful. You're amazing. You've got the whole world. You just need to see it. So that that would be it. That's all that I want them to know. That they are unique and they are beautiful just the way they are. If they just if they just see it, if they just see it for what it really is, for the plainness of it, not to overthink it, not to make it complicated, they just see the world for what it really is in its plain form, it will open up for them and they can really do whatever they want to do. I mean, there are there are documented videos and books and things are written of people accomplishing things that they were constantly told they cannot do. You cannot do that. You will fail here. This will never happen. There's so many instances where people defied that, and they only defied that because they put everything else aside. They quieted down the noise and they saw the world for what it really is, and they did it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great message, man. It's like the Roger Bannister idea, right? It's like nobody could run a 4 minute mile until he ran a 4 minute mile, and then everybody runs 4 minute miles now, right? Impossible is only impossible until somebody does it, and then it becomes the norm. So that's a
Exactly.
great message to have. Okay, if the guys that are listening to the podcast are wanting to reach out to you, they're wanting to check out the books, or they just kind of want to, maybe even shoot you a message and say, "Hey, I really appreciate, you taking the time on the podcast. Love what you had to say." What is the best way for them to do that?
I'm very reachable on all social media platforms. It will most probably be under the handle of James Fouché Writes, or they can just check out my website, jamesfouché.com. I'm open to any type of engagement. Yeah, I would actually, it would be nice for folks to just connect, share, like, wherever they are, or just drop a message of like, this is something that I did with parenting. It's always nice to engage with the community. I like being social on social, where that's like a big no-no for many people. I quite enjoy being social on social, and I'm quite open and frank there as well.
Okay. Okay, awesome, awesome. So I'll make sure to put all of that in the show notes and the summary description of the podcast so that guys can have your website and your social media handles so they can go ahead and follow. Fellas, if you're listening, make sure you follow. Shoot him a message. If he's social on social, take advantage of the opportunity. I think he's a great resource. Go out and grab a book, hear the story of Gray, and kind of get into it. The fourth book that's coming out, are you able to talk about that yet, or is it just like we just got to wait in the anticipation? Is there a title
Well,
for it yet?
the book that just came out now, Grey, is actually the one that's it's only hitting reviews and media now. So that's sort of the new one that's out. That's the
Okay.
one I really want to talk about at
Okay.
the moment. The fourth one is coming. It's already done. It's
Okay.
finished. But I wanna just wait for that one to because that's a very difficult lady that I wrote.
Okay.
She's one of those tougher aunties that you don't mess with. Grey is it's like a crime novel, but on a scale of Job. It's like a modern version of just with some bad guys and stuff thrown in there. But it's a very interesting journey. It deals with the idea of violence on a community and the effect that it has on the community. But it also deals with the idea of revenge. That's a very complicated, very messy, very real thing to deal with. And yeah, I mean, I wrote a book with gangsterism and bad guys and all things, and I did it without having one swear word in there. So for me, that little achievement, I love that. I don't swear in my books. See the need for it. Less is more, right?
Yeah, less is more. Less is more. Awesome, awesome. James, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your night to spend with us, to share your journey in fatherhood, to talk about kind of your transition from writer to father and writer, and how that kind of has kind of brought you to where you are now. I obviously need to go check out the book, so I got to go grab me a copy. But again, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I know how important time is for all of us. So thank you for sharing that time with us today.
Thank you, Rod. Thank you for having me. And I'm so thankful for what you're doing. I think in a time where there's so many narratives out there and so many conflicting messages that are being pushed, in all the noise, people sometimes get to overlook the fact that life carries on. And especially right now, I think what you're doing, communicating with dads, speaking about fatherhood and the harsh realities of it sometimes, and just saying, look, man, you're not alone. This is happening in other houses as well. Maybe there's problems that you're dealing with, giving people a mouthpiece maybe, or just a place for information. This is fantastic. Please don't ever stop, Rod. I mean, this is great. I really love what you're doing. Thanks, man. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, brother. I'm gonna let you go enjoy whatever's left of your night, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right, that's the episode. If this conversation gave you something to reflect on, share it with the dad who needs it. Subscribe, share with the dad, and leave a quick review. James said he's reachable on social and through his website. So if you want to connect with him, check him out there. And I appreciate you for listening. See you next time.